Long before humanity dared dream of rockets, satellites, and space trash, there was another golden, slippery substance that dominated humanity's imagination and diet: butter. From the sacred temples in India to the breakfast plates of astronauts, maybe? I'm taking a deep dive into butter's oddly fascinating history.
Mike, how's that related to your desire, your project of collecting a piece of space trash?
Well, my friends, my fellow heathens, trust the process. All will become buttery clear. Welcome back to Mike Heath's Orbital Garbage Project. I am Mike Heath, and this is our Orbital Garbage Project, where we're trying to do one thing and one thing only: collect a piece of space trash. And how are we doing that? We're capitalizing, we're monetizing, we are strategizing here by covering topics that humanity, you, the viewer, the listener, this is going into your ear holes and your eye holes, and I know you want to know, what's the history of butter? That golden goodness that I put on my bread, I put in my pasta. Got a wonderful collab with peanuts, butter. Butter has a fascinating history, and that's this week's main topic. What is the origins of the slab? Ask yourself right now, I'll give you 10 seconds. When did butter begin? Where is the buttery beginnings in our great timeline as a human race? Is that pre-human? Post-dinosaur? Post-caveman? See, our records indicate that butter dates back over 9,000 years. That's a big niner with a big thou behind it. It originated in ancient Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia. Back in 6500 BC, before our Lord. It's thought that it likely originated between, get this folks, nomadic herders. You heard? Nomads, people without a home, people without a house, but with a home. And what these herders would do, they would store milk in animal skin bags. And we're not talking Gucci. See, these herders, these heathens, would strap animal skin bags to other animals, putting brother on brother for the sake of butter. And what would happen with the milk in these bags, unbeknownst to them at first, and then maybe became their strategy for churning their butter, is as they traveled these long distances, get this, yeah, crazy, right? Their little factories, their little animal factories for churning butter, they would go, the bag would jostle of sorts and produce butter. It would separate the fat from the milk, forming our earliest versions of butter. So thank you, Mesopotamia, for butter. You herders. You heard? At first, what maybe began as a tragedy for the herders of Mesopotamia,
thinking, oh no, we broke the milk.
What are we going to do? Well, this is our only form of sustenance. Let's try eating it, and voila, slap a bread over the fire and throw it on there. You got bread and butter, baby. Even the Egyptians walk like an Egyptian. Were getting in on it. They were doing their little hieroglyphics. We see butter in the hieros. And what they would do, what the Egyptians would do in their little hieros, they would have pots of butter, a pot of butter offered as a sacrifice to the dead. No use to them. Am I right, folks? Over to our great friends in India. For over 3,000 years, ghee, which is another name for butter, I learned, has been used, even having cultural religious significance, apparently. I don't know. I've never been to India. I would love to go to India. We would love to have folks on the Space Trash Force in India. Can you confirm or deny the cultural religious significance of ghee? Is that true? Or is that just internet misinformation? I don't know. What I do know is that the Roman and Greeks considered butter sub-tier food. Leave it to the Romans and Greeks to miss out on a good thing, am I right? What, the Romans and Greeks just use it for medicine and skincare? Can you just picture a Roman soldier after defeating their enemies being like, oh, hard day out of battle. Got to rub some ghee on my face, Got to keep the skin soft for my emperor. Want to have a good face when I go home from war. Put some ghee on there. We don't use butter for face care today. Praise God. If we did that, we would need face wash for our face wash. And this is the rise and fall of butter, or really the fall and rise of butter, to be more accurate, because what was once considered barbarian to the Romans and Greeks became a fine delicacy in the great country of France, which we would also love to have people from. And the rich history of butter in the great country of France goes all the way back to 1866 with Napoleon III, nephew of the famous Napoleon Bonaparte, an emperor of the Second French Empire. Not the first, but the second. Nap III recognized that butter was expensive and very scarce. There was a scarcity mindset with butter in 1866. Especially for the low class and the military, which was very important to Nap III. He wanted a low-cost alternative butter. What he wanted to do was he wanted to nourish his army out in the field, but he also wanted to provide for the people. What does I want to do? I want to help humanity by collecting a piece of space trash. So me and Nap III, we got a lot in common. I'm not looking to dominate the world, but I am looking to dominate space trash. See, the difference between butter and space trash is going to stay there forever. It doesn't deteriorate. It's just littering our low Earth orbit, blocking us from leaving, namely, and littering our orbital, which was at one time our front yard, but is now just a junkyard. See, but butter would deteriorate. And Nap III wanted something that had a good shelf life, something like space trash, which would live on and not deteriorate. So in 1869, he offered a prize for someone who could create this low-cost butter alternative for his people. Enter into the chat Hippolyte Meggy Marus, a French chemist who responded to this call with the invention of margarine. This margarine was a combo of a spread of beef tallow, and skim milk. They skimmed the milk, they took the tallow from a cow, beef, and put it together, made margarine. Nap III said, "You win, Hippolyte Meggy Marus." So he patented that, commercialized it, got it out to the people, which is what we're doing here. We haven't patented space trash collection. I don't know if you could even do that. I don't know if you're a lawyer, talk to me. By the time butter and margarine made their way over to the great United States of America, it was a feud. Americans didn't want this fake butter. We came to America for real butter, so get your margarine out of here. There was a feud. Why? Because Americans like the real deal. So they taxed margarine heavily, even made it pink and black to deter customers from wanting to buy it. Classic American move. They taxed margarine so heavily, it was like the butter mafia running things like, you want to come into the dairy aisle? You got to pay for protection, buddy. It was a fat feud. And we're talking milk fat. See, butter is cow's gift to the world. Margarine, that's a lab workaround. Margarine was created in a lab. Butter is in the original design. And we all know the average American loves a good butter toast. Butter on everything. We put butter in so much stuff. And we often talk about here, what would it be like to be in space collecting a piece of space trash? Can we bring butter there? Well, my friends, I've got bad news. The typical astronaut diet is carefully crafted. Yes, they don't want... when you go to space, you got to have something that has a good shelf life, isn't messy. To our knowledge here at MHOGP, we don't think there's ever been butter in space. which we want to change. When we take our mission to collect a piece of space trash, we're bringing butter. Real butter. John Glenn, the first American to ever orbit Earth in space, ate applesauce out of a tube. No butter there. When we're in low Earth orbit, we're going to have a little tube of butter. Real butter. And I'm not talking about that junk that was created in 1979 in America. I can't believe it's not butter. You know, that stain on American history created by the Jewel Company based out of Illinois, which we don't have listeners there yet. 1979, the Jewel Company invented margarine, but it didn't hit the big markets until 2 years later, 1981, when Unilever, we don't know what the original name was for this, but as they tested out in early markets, consumers reportedly said, "I can't believe it's not butter," which eventually became the product name. And I can't believe they're still allowing this trash, this vegetable oil spread. I mean, I'll confess, I ate not butter for many times in my life. And see, just like classic American culture, they pushed this on us by using marketing. 1990, they had Fabio. You remember Fabio, that long-haired hunk? To push this, I can't believe it's not butter. To the Space Trash Force, never will we, under any circumstance, no matter what the timeline is, no matter who is governing space at that point, no matter what planets have been occupied, no matter what the budget is, when we go to space, we are going to take real butter for the first time. Not only the first time collecting a piece of space trash, but also the first time that real butter, real cow butter, will be a part of our diet in space. Because in a world flooded with good ideas, some bad ideas, this, my friends, is a great idea. And I think by talking about the history of butter, I mean, what an intriguing topic this has been. We are setting ourselves apart from not only being a project about collecting a piece of space trash, but also a force of good in this world, a force of going back to our Mesopotamian roots of our animal skin bags, churning butter, unbeknownst to us, not ruining cow milk, but creating a beautiful, good product by separating the fat, getting our fat-free milk, but still using the fat for good. And butter has been enjoyed all over the world for thousands and thousands of years. For 9,000 years has butter been enjoyed by mankind. And we're going back to the roots because we're going global. That's right, folks. The Mike Heath Orbital Garbage Project is now added in a new country, the great country of Australia. That's right. Since our last episode, we have added a listener in New South Wales, NSW. And if you're like me, you're listening here in the great state of Washington or just the United States of America, you might not know where NSW is. Well, let me show you. NSW is on the east coast of Australia. It borders the Queensland, long live the Queen, to the north, Victoria to the south, and South Australia to the west. We're lower east side of Australia, baby. Home to the capital, Sydney. You know the Sydney Opera House, that beautiful piece of architecture? Yeah, maybe, I don't know where my Australian listener, our Australian listener, where were you enjoying MHOG-P? Were you sitting on the steps of the Sydney Opera House learning about collecting a piece of space trash? I can just picture it now. You're there. You're back on your Thursday morning walk and you're like, oh, new episode of MHOG-P. Let me sit on the steps of the Sydney Opera House, look out over the water and just enjoy hearing about the history of butter and the movement that's happening in collecting a piece of space trash. Well, my friends, welcome to the pod. Welcome to the Space Trash Force. And as you're enjoying this, you see people walking by, let them know. Hey, friend, fellow Australian, have you heard of Mike Heath's Orbital Garbage Project? where he's trying to collect a piece of space trash, spread the news. Download the guerrilla marketing poster, slap that up on the Sydney Opera House. Let's paper the Sydney Opera House. Let's get a task force together. We need an Australian task force for our guerrilla marketing to grow the fan base there so we could go and collect a piece of space trash. There's over 5.3 million potential members in the greater Sydney area. Think about if we just got a foothold. That's a whole new continent that has been untapped for our orbital garbage project. I mean, just think about the possibilities. It's just, it takes my breath away thinking about what could be done in Australia. And I just want to thank you for listening. And if you made it this far, I just want to apologize to you, my friends, my fellow heathens, that it's been too long since we've done a pod. And, we try to get these out every 7 days, and it's probably been about 10 days. We're 3 days too late. 3 days too late and $1 short. But we've been out. We've been busy. We've been moving and shaking, trying to get things done. We've been doing comedy. It's been going good. We're writing new jokes. We're doing new riffs off the top. There's nothing more exciting than that moment. The moment before you go on stage and you say, what's happening in the room? What's taking place? What did the last comic talk about? What's been talked about already? What can I just riff off the top? Just recognize what's in the room. And gosh, I was at a show last week where the comic before me was talking about another comic in the room who's now their husband and how they stalked them at open mics for years before their now husband recognized that their now wife was interested in them, and they just followed them to open mics. So I said, let me just riff on this off the top. Here's a little clip of that riff. Enjoy it.
Rachel and I, our stories actually have a lot in common. I've been following Richie to open mics for 5 years. He still hasn't caught on that I have a massive crush. Well, this is the night,
Beauty. See, you have these beautiful moments that you can't, there's too much context, without setting it up. So this is a great space to just get these riffs, cement them in history. I mean, that's just such a fun moment. You can't recreate it. You don't even enjoy it as much as the people in the room did, or maybe you do. Maybe you're like, gosh, Mike, this is what we need here on the project. These lighthearted riffs to kind of keep the spirits up. And we got to keep the spirits up because there's so much pushback on us accomplishing our mission. And that's why every week here on MHOGP, we take a moment to recognize the encouraging comments from you, the listeners. So here it is. Let's get into this week's encouraging comments, formerly known as motivational comments. But now, we don't need motivation. Yes, we need motivation. We need to be encouraged. Everybody needs to be encouraged. There's nothing greater as a fellow human saying, I believe in you. And that's what we've heard this week from you. And I want to just thank you. This is coming in from Sari Neverclear-He. This podcast is interesting enough to be the only podcast I watch. Smiley face. Sorry, Neverclear. Thank you. This is the most interesting podcast about collecting a piece of space trash hosted by a no-name comedian, Mike Heath, that there's ever existed. And it is so interesting. And I thank you. I want to invite you, though. You don't have to only listen to our podcast, but if it is, tell a friend. Pass along the good news of Mike Heath's Orbital Garbage Project, because it's interesting. And that's sorry certified. Next comment, Gary Garriton. Long-time listener, long-time commenter, maybe future Orbital Council member over on the Patreon. The best space trash podcaster there is, there was, and there ever will be. Now, Gary, I am so encouraged by this affirmation of me, but I am reluctant to say I'm the best podcaster about space trash there ever will be, because my hope, my dream is to spark a revolution of many projecteurs who will go on to collect their own pieces of space trash, because really what our project is, maybe a 10-year project, maybe longer, maybe shorter, you never know. All we know is we need $2 million in order to collect our piece of space trash. And once that mission has been accomplished, I want to pass the torch on to other young men and women across the globe who have been introduced to this great humanities crisis through MHOGP, who will go on for their own hog peas or their own og peas. Maybe their last name is H, maybe it's not. Last week we put out the word to NFL players as the NFL season here in the National Football League here in America, which is starting up here in a few weeks, honestly. Just quite, the preseason will be kicking off soon. And as that becomes back in, a major topic in the cultural zeitgeist, we're curious. Are there NFL players, past or present, who are passionate or at least open to being passionate about collecting a piece of space trash, who we could get on the project, who we could get on as spokespeople for our great work? And the internet let us know what's up. Cooper Slack says Josh Dobbs gotta be. Josh Dobbs, are you interested in orbital garbage cleanup? You want to help out? EM Sensei Music says, I bet Aaron Rodgers stays up at night thinking about space trash. And well, if that's true, Aaron Rodgers, I don't know how much energy you need for doing the quarterbacking you're going to do this year. But if you have some spare energy, Aaron Rodgers, come on over to MHOGP. We'd be happy to have you here. Riley Barnhill, look, nowadays people may say they are, but aren't. I had this day and age, but I support you and your goal. Riley, your comment is slightly unintelligible. I cannot understand exactly the logic of what you're saying, but I am encouraged because it seems like you support our project, and for that, we thank you. Santoko.home video. Do you do home videos or do you sell videos from your home? You could probably go to a college and find a football player. Now, that's a great idea. We'd always thought about getting somebody who, is a past or present NFL player, but what about a future NFL player? We could do a little NIL deal. We don't have much, but what we do have, you could become our college football player. We're still looking for NFL player, current or past or present. But we could get you in while you're playing in college. I don't think you can have like logos, but maybe we could get like, kind of your undershirt. So after the game, you rip off the pad, you're like MHOGP, Space Trash Collection. That'd be great. I mean, that could help us get it on Good Morning America and the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Morrowind 4732, is it any space trash you are after, or is there a targeted mission at a particular piece of space trash? Great question, Morrow. It's any piece of trash that's currently in low Earth orbit. That's what we are going after. Could be a fork, could be something bigger. And lastly, but not least, Igor the Giant, for his plan to help us get an NFL player on MHOGP. Plan. Number 1, stop everything I'm doing. Great. Number 2, get into football the American kind. That's right, my friends. Number 3, get good. Number 4, start playing in the NFL. 5, get into the podcast. 6, refuse to elaborate. You lost me there at number 6, but up through number 5, I think that's a foolproof plan, Igor, and we thank you for your encouraging comment. And there's no other way to end this episode than with some space news. We got news from space. Mike, where'd you get that news from? It's news from space. See, what the UK has done is they created a robot fish. It's in the ocean that's collecting ocean plastic and powering itself by digesting it, eliminating the need for a battery while also cleaning up the ocean. And what I want to know, this little shark fish trash eater, little robot, is who's building that for space? And could that help us in not just collecting a piece of space trash, but by just cleaning up our orbital junkyard, because all we need is one piece. So here's how I think this works. Someone develops an eagle. I picture it as an eagle. It doesn't have to be an eagle, but an eagle robot that flies up. Maybe it's rocketed up and then it just flies around low Earth orbit, eating pieces of space trash and powering itself through that, digesting it. And then the final piece is not digested because they have enough energy. And then it spends its last resources of energy with a piece of space trash in it to come back down to Earth and land in the ocean. I'm sure we could do that. We go pick it up from the ocean. Bam. Now, I don't know if that's more or less than $2 million, but our current plan is to spend $2 million to collect a piece of space trash. And if that's less money, I'm open to that. If it's more, at this point, I'm not open to it because $2 million is still seems insurmountable. But my friends, you have to keep your options open. And that's what we're doing. We have 117 days until our goal of getting on Good Morning America and the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is up. And we're keeping our options open. We're still writing the book, Colleen Goes to Space, and we really have to get that done very soon. Our goal is we have to get that done before there's 90 days left, because the best goal scientists say you can't really get excited about something for longer than 90 days. The 90-day window is when you get most excited. So if we get the book done, Colleen Goes to Space, before that 90-day window, then we could really accelerate our timeline to getting on Good Morning America and the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade through the book. So we've got 27 days now to complete the book. That's a month. Let's just say we have a month left to finish the book. So I need to get an illustrator in. And honestly, we need to get more movement stateside. We had high hopes last week that, we would get into new states. And my friends, I don't want to end on a discouraging note. I just want to encourage us to say there's still time. There's still time to get the word out to all 50 states, to get a listener in their home states, whether it be Alaska, California, Montana, places we still haven't gone. We still have 46 states to go before the end of summer. And I'm an eternal optimist, and I believe we can do it. We can get into all 50 states. We can get the book done in a month. And together, we will clean up our orbital junkyard.
Great shot!